Hi everyone, it's Miss Mortimer here with your maths videos for this week. This is the video for Primary 6A, Primary 6b and Primary 6-7. And as you can see from my board here, this week we are going to be learning about written multiplication. And we have got an icon for this week because we are learning to be able to say that I can multiply using written methods. So previously we have been working on doing mental multiplication, which has involved figuring out answers, really aiming without writing anything down, or using methods that can help us do the calculations mentally, a lot of times table work. But now we are going on to do written multiplication, which, as you can see some examples here, are our lovely chimney sums that we like to call them, or column methods, where we are writing out sums and figuring out the answer in smaller steps. And this allows us to tackle larger numbers in smaller chunks as well. So we'll get into our videos and see what we're doing today. So for today's video, we are continuing to focus on written multiplication, and we're actually going to be introducing a new method of written multiplication, which we'll get onto in just a moment. Just now, if you're tackling mild work today, we are going to continue practicing the method we have done so far this week. So I'm just going to do another worked example of that for you. So we'll do a 3-digit sum timesing by a single digit, which is in line with the mild work. So let's do 5, 9, 7 times 4. And this is actually a question from one of your sheets for today. So we're timesing by a single digit, so it's just the one step we need to do, nice and simple. And as I pointed out the last time, and with our addition work, it's helpful to do a reminder of our place values, 100, tens and units, and we always start with the smallest value, which is our units in this case, but we covered this in the last video as well. So we're timesing everything by 4. So I mentioned before, if you want to have a times table square handy, or if you want to do a quick refresher of your 4 times table, then that'll help you with answering the sum. First of all, we do 7 times 4, which is 28. So the units 8 go there, the 2 goes underneath, so you can see 28 as the answer there. And we carry this when we get to the next step. Then we go on to our tens, 9 times 4, which is 36. But before we write the answer, we need to add on 2. So 36 add on 2 is 38. So the 8 goes in here, the 3 is carried, 38. And finally, 5 times 4 is 20, but we need to add our 3, so 23 finishes off our question. So 597 times 4 is 2,388. Now, as I said, we're actually going to show you another method today, and that is the grid method. I'm going to turn my board this way just so you can see it along the sides this way. And this involves creating a grid, or something that looks like a box. We are going to do the question 34 times 2. So we are still timesing by a single digit. It is timesing by 2. And I'm going to show you this way using the grid method. In school, when I've been teaching multiplication in class, we usually go over both methods, and it's interesting to see some people prefer the column chimney sum method, and some people prefer the grid method. So it'll be interesting to see which method you prefer when doing your multiplication. So to start our grid, we draw something that looks like this, and we could put our multiplication sign in the corner. It's not necessary, but it's just almost like a wee decoration, and it reminds us that we're multiplying. Now there needs to be a box for each digit, 34 times 2. So I've drawn a longer line here because I'm going to split this into 2, and I'm going to split it into 30 and 4. So you can see I've partitioned the 34 into 30 and 4. and we're timesing by 2. So I'm just going to add the 2 in this side. So 34 times 2. It's a little bit like a multiplication square where you've got numbers along the top, numbers along the side, and you multiply them together. Now we're actually going to use some of our skills that we went over for mental multiplication here, because we do have numbers that have zeros. So please pay careful attention to what is going on here. I'm going to change pen color just so it's a little bit clearer. So in this first box here, we times 30 times 2. Now that's actually quite easy to do. We're doing 30 add 30, and many of you probably could come up with the answer mentally straight away. But we could use our trick method we went over, which is when we do 3 times 2. Well, that's the way it come off there. So 3 times 2 is 6, and then however many zeros there were, we add on that amount of zeros. So there was only 1. So 3 times 2 is 6, add the 1 0, the answer is 60. And then in this box, we do 4 times 2, like I said, like a multiplication square. So 4 times 2 is 8. I'm going to change pen color again. So we have 60 in one box and 8 in the other box, and all we have to do now is to add up all the numbers. So in this case, we are just doing 60 plus 8, which is 68. Now we can double check that with our other method that we were doing, our column method. So we'll write that out just down here in underneath. 34 times by 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 2 is 6. 68. Now I personally think this method is a lot quicker because you don't have to draw the grid, but some people prefer this as it splits it up into smaller steps, and it would be something that is interesting to try. And for spicy and extra hot week, extra hot today this week, you are going to be practicing some of our grid method calculations. I'm going to do one more example just now, timesing by 1 digit. So we're doing 715 times by 9, and we're going to make up our grid with the times table side in the middle. Now we're going to split up our 715. My lines are a bit wobbly there, but 715, 710, 5, and we're timesing by 9. So 700 times 9 in this box. Let me just change pen color. So as I said previously, we can use our method. What's 9 times 7? It's 63. How many zeros? We have 2 zeros. Very quick for people that might look at something like 700 times 9 and freak out a bit. Ignore the zeros. 9 times 7 is 63, and then we add the zeros. And same again, although this one's a bit more straightforward. 10 times 9, we could do 9 times 1, which is 9. And then add the 0, 90, or we probably know 10 times 9 is 90. And finally, 5 times 9 is 45. Next, we need to add it all up, which you maybe are able to do quickly there. And again, if you feel like you can't do this mentally, feel free to get a scrap of piece of paper or write in the corner there. I'll write mine in the corner just to show you, and we'll get rid of it afterwards. But we're doing 6, or you could do a chimney sum for adding, but 6,300 plus 90 is 6,390. I'll write this down. And then 6390 plus 45. Now we are bridging the 100, so we're going to be on to 6435 for our answer there. But you don't need to write this bit if you can figure that out in your head. But if it helps you to write it down or do a chimney sum, feel free. And then just to check here, we're going to do our chimney sum method to see if we get the same answer. It's good to do 2 different methods to see if it gets the same result. 9 times 5, 45. 1 times 9 is 9 plus the 4 is 13. And 7 times 9 is 63 plus 1 is 64. 6435, it's the same answer. Now for timesing by one digit, you may feel that you prefer a certain method. However, when timesing by two digits, it might be a different story, which is what we're going to show you next and relates to our extra hot work. So if you had a look at our video from Tuesday, you will know that we showed the three-step method for multiplying by two digits. Now, it can be quite complicated, so you might prefer the grid method for this, as it's a bit more visual. And this might be where people change their minds about the method they prefer. So we're going to show you the grid method, and we'll do a quick recap of the three-step method as well, just to compare. So we've got 832 times by 64. So we'll make up our grid. So we're doing 832, and we're timesing by 60 and 4. And you can see that there. So I've split 832 into 830 and 2, and 64 has been split into 60 and 4. Now we're moving on to the calculation side of things. We've got a few more numbers to play with this time, but it's the same as what I showed you before. So we'll start with the top row. We're doing 800 times by 60. So 8 times 6 is 48. Now there are 1, 2, 3 zeros here, so that means there's 3 zeros in our answer. Quite a big answer. The overall answer is going to be. Then we go on to 60 times 30, so 6 times 3 is 18. We have 2 zeros, so we add on 2 zeros. And then 60 times 2, you might be able to figure that out on your own, or 6 times 2 is 12, and add your 0. Moving on to the bottom section now. 800 times 4, so 8 times 4 is 32, and then we have just 2 zeros. 30 times 4, 3 times 4 is 12, and then we have the 0 there. Just a reminder, this is extra hot work, so if you're watching this and feeling a bit overwhelmed, don't worry, it is extra hot, but it probably benefits you to watch and try and keep up with what I'm doing here. And also the beauty of doing this on YouTube is you can pause and go back and watch it closely again and again. And remember, you can try and work these out alongside me. And then finally, sorry for interrupting there, we have left this box, which is 2 times 4, which is 8. Now we need to add all the numbers up. Now, what I would like to do to add them up is, again, get an answer for the top row, get an answer for this row, and then you almost end up with a wee chimney sum. But as I said, if you can add them mentally, that's great. It might be slightly tricky for you, so you might want to write a wee note or do a separate sum, but I'm just going to add them mentally today. So 48,000 plus 1,800 is going to be 49,800 plus another 120. See, even I'm actually losing track here. So 48,000 add 1,800 was 49,800, and then 49,800, because we're dealing with really big numbers here, add 120 equals 49,920. Okay, and then for this bottom row, we have 3,200, add 120, add 8. So 3,200 add 120 is going to be 3,320, and then add 8. So 3,328. Now I'm going to rewrite that and try and write it neatly. This is just going to make my life a bit easier. Underneath this to make a wee chimney sum. So 3,328 and 28. Okay, then we're going to add, because we need to add up all our numbers, so we need to add those last two columns. So 0 add 8 is 8, 2 add 2 is 4, 9 add 3 is 12, 9 add 3 is 12 again, plus the 1 is 13, 4 add 1 is 5, so 53,248. And I've just double checked my answer there, and 53,248 is the correct answer. We can quickly show you using the 3-step method just to compare us again with what we're doing here. So unfortunately I had to rub all that out because there wasn't any room on my whiteboard, but we have 832 times by 64 here. So step 1, we times by 4, 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 4 is 12, 8 times 4 is 32, plus 1 is 33. On to step 2, we'll just quickly change colour. We times by the 60, but we need to add the 0 because we're just going to times by 6. So 2 times 6 is 12, 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1 is 19, and 8 times 6 is 48, plus 1 is 49. And then we're going on to add. I did go over this method in more detail last week, so if this is going, in my last video, so if this is going quickly for you, feel free to go back and watch that video. 8 plus 0 is 8, 2 plus 2 is 4, 3 plus 9 is 12. Oh, stick with that for some reason. 3 plus 9, 12 again, but 1 is 3, 13, and 4 plus 1 is 5, 53,248. So here's a look at the task you have got set today. We have got, for mild, we are focusing on the chimney sum method. We're not confusing ourselves by doing anything new. We are doing 3 digits times by 1 digit up into the 7, 8 and 9 times table. So remember to use those multiplication squares if you need them. On to spicy. We are introducing the grid method, so we'd like you to have a go. There's another example here at the top, and you should fill out the grids, or you can copy them into a jotter if you're using a jotter or a notebook, and have a go at the grid method. And then finally, for extra hot, you are also having a go at the grid method, but you are timesing by 2 digits, so exactly like the example I just showed you just now. And please remember, if you have any questions or you need extra help, to get in touch with your teachers on Teams. Thank you everyone for your hard work this week. As always, please just get in touch with your teachers if you have any questions about your learning on Teams. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.